Welcome to the channel, Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist, as usual. Walking the dog. Come on. Thanks for coming in. I like to get out and stay in the open air and everything. When you're gonna, and what we do need to realise is that people with personality disorders, the conflict between that and their sinful nature is going to bring all sorts of challenges to the relationship. And the problem with it is when you're trying to identify what's going on, what the problem is or what it's not, why is there distance, why is there negligence, it's easy just to jump to the narcissist conclusion. I guess narcissist is becoming another word for dysfunction, deliberate dysfunction. It's more of a term that's describing deliberate dysfunction. But for some of these people, they honestly don't know that the situation is as bad as it is. They don't know. Because I've had a couple of my girlfriends, one in particular, say I didn't even think anything was wrong. She had no clue of where the relationship was up to, and I struggled with that. I tried to figure out, well, what's that mean? Does that mean I'm being mean, that I'm being, and I'd never come across this before. But it didn't mean any of that. The situation was that she had no idea where the relationship was up to. And that's all there was to it. So there was more going on, or not going on, than I was aware of. And you have to be fair to these people. You have to say to yourself, well, gosh, I've come into this person's life. I've tried to produce a relationship for them. It's not working out the way I would like or would have expected. Things aren't going as well as I thought they would. Why is it continuing? And the person keeps turning up and they've got no idea. They've got no clue of where the relationship's at. And that's troubling. Particularly when you get to the point where you have to ask that person to leave. What some people will do, and they won't be aware of it, is triangulate the relationship. They'll triangulate it with family members and other things, and the next thing you're competing and contending with people that aren't a part of the relationship, and you get this sense that, am I trying to, you just get this sense of what is actually going on here. What is the real deal here? And when you start to contend with family members, which you're not, but they are with you in the relationship, they're interfering in the relationship, and your partner's trying to work out what this means and how's it all going to add up, and the next thing you've got people that are going away from common sense, and now you've got all these psychological attacks coming at you and stuff like this. That's hard to try and unravel. And what I couldn't understand was, in my last one, how she was unable to get things in order. She was just completely unable to get things in order. And that's where the triangulation come in. There was no order. It was completely out of order. And I waited and I waited. And you'll wait, but you're only waiting for one thing. And that's disaster. An inevitable disaster. Because they're sending you the messages by their behavior that this ain't got the value that I want to do the necessary things to keep it. Now, it doesn't mean the person's not interested in you. It possibly doesn't mean the person doesn't love you, but there is such a conflict in where each of you are at in life that the clash of stages in life undermines the relationship. You could have somebody that is in the right area of you in life and they know how to cope with family members that are jealous and family members that are in conflict with the relationship. But some people just aren't at that point, and by the time you're 30, 40, 50 years old and you can't resolve conflict to save your relationship if it's not your partner that's causing it, then that's an unwinnable situation. It's going to lead to disaster. You're wasting time, their time and your time. Because it's triangulation, there's separation, there's a place that the relationship's gotten to where it's not functioning properly. There's distance, there's absence, there's a vacancy, there's a emotional need that's not being met by way of the discord, the dissension that's coming from the people in the family, their family, his family, her family, well, whoever's family it is. They've got no right to be interfering. And if the person hasn't got the maturity maybe, or the mentality to understand, I can't believe that, because I've heard the person, now you'll hear these people, they're aware of what's right and what's wrong within family dynamics, because you'll hear them speaking. Oh, this is right, that's wrong, they did this did that, only to find out that they're doing it themselves to you. I keep saying it, and I'll say it and I'll say it and I'll say it. Unresolved is the marker for disaster. The disaster's coming. It's just a matter of how long you can hold on for. It's like you're holding onto the side of a cliff and your fingers are starting to go. You're going to go, and then all of a sudden you're gone. People are at different stages in their lives. They deal with things in different ways. They see things differently to what you do. And sometimes you've just got to accept that the transparency and the values and the way in which you've been formed is different to them. We're not all the same. And there's stuff that I say on the channel that you already know. But there's such an element of unseen. There's an unseen element in relationships where you have to have such a level of discernment that, stay still, won't let me put this lead on. Got it. We're at such different levels that there won't be a resolve, because the different ways of life are too far apart. The different levels of maturity are too far apart. So trying to comprehend where one person's at with the other is too hard, because we're at different stages. then there's the element of willful ignorance. Some people just don't want to face certain things. They haven't got the character to do that. They may not face them with you, and then all of a sudden in the next breath they're facing similar issues with somebody else. There's so many complexities, but you have to navigate where you're up to in the unseen realm and make sure that the way you're discerning things in the relationship are being evaluated correctly and interpreted correctly, so that you can come to the conclusions that you have in a way that's fair on your partner and fair on you. If you're not discerning the situation properly, then things go on longer than they should. Things don't get resolved the way they should. But if things are getting resolved, that's a sweetness to the relationship when somebody goes, yeah, I can see that, we can fix that, and they're onto it and it's fixed. It's a sweet aroma to the relationship. It's a joy. The Bible says it brings joy. But unresolved brings sickness and sadness. Resolve brings joy and healing. But it's all about how aware we are of whether we're being played, of whether this person's aware or not. And whether, you're dealing with personality disorders and the sinful nature, and how much of that you can cope with. Because a lot of it's going to cause trauma. And relationships aren't about trauma, they're about wholeness with somebody else. And you'll hear these people say, well, yeah, there are going to be problems in yes, there are going to be problems in relationships, but are they legit? Are they there for the right reasons? Or are they just unnecessary issues that never had to be there in the first place? These are the things that we've got to ask ourselves. Because you don't go into a relationship for headaches, you go into a relationship to build something together. And now with narcissism creeping in more and more into civilization, people are just looking for supply. If your supply runs out, they just go find somebody else. No, that's not what you do. But that's what people do. And it all just gets worse and worse and worse until one day they're all old, they've only got a certain amount of supply. Supply's not as easy to find, they'll still find it. And it won't be, sometimes these people get a once in a lifetime opportunity to build something great, and if they miss it, then that's it, they've missed it. And then they just stay in the narcissistic, sinful nature realm. When they feel like a bit, they get a bit, and when they don't, they don't. Somebody might hang around for a couple of weeks and then they're gone. Or they've got a convenience. It suits some people to live that way, but it doesn't end well. It ends up with worthlessness. Nobody's worth anything. Nobody's worth anything. You can try and make someone feel worth and have worth, but if they don't want it, they won't do it. They won't experience it. And you're trying to make someone become what they're not. Sometimes the best thing we can do, is leave these people alone once we've identified that it's not going to work. And get on with our lives. I'm Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. Thank you for joining me, and